The day inside Naoya Inoue's training camp doesn't begin with chaos, loud energy, or dramatic moments for the cameras, but instead with structure, discipline, and a quiet intensity that immediately reflects the mindset required to remain at the absolute highest level of boxing, because long before viewers see gloves crashing into pads or hear the sound of heavy bags echoing through the gym, there is already a clear sense of purpose controlling every part of the environment, from the timing of each drill to the focused expressions of everyone inside camp, and with the massive showdown against Junto Nakatani rapidly approaching, every small detail of the routine feels deliberate, calculated, and deeply connected to the larger mission of preparing for what many believe could become one of the most dangerous and defining fights of Inoue's career, creating an atmosphere where nothing appears accidental and every movement carries meaning, because this isn't simply about staying in shape or maintaining rhythm. It's about sharpening every physical and mental weapon possible ahead of a matchup that has already captured the attention of the boxing world, and what makes the environment even more compelling is the calm seriousness surrounding it all, a feeling that the people inside this camp fully understand the magnitude of what's coming and are treating each day not as routine preparation, but as another critical step toward a fight that could ultimately shape Inoue's legacy forever. As the first hours of the day begin to unfold inside Naoya Inoue's camp, the focus surprisingly isn't on immediate intensity or pushing the body to complete exhaustion, but instead on alignment, rhythm, and controlled preparation, gradually bringing both the mind and body into a state where they can operate with maximum efficiency throughout the long demands of the day. And that measured approach reveals something deeper about how elite-level fighters truly prepare, because at this stage of boxing, training is no longer just about working harder than everyone else. It's about understanding how to sustain peak performance over time without breaking the body down unnecessarily, valuing consistency, recovery, and precision just as much as raw intensity, ensuring that every session connects smoothly to the next rather than creating avoidable fatigue that could reduce sharpness later in camp. And what makes this environment so fascinating is the discipline behind that restraint. Because while fans often expect non-stop punishment and dramatic workouts, the reality inside a championship camp ahead of a dangerous fight with Junto Nakatani is far more calculated, with energy carefully managed and every movement serving a specific purpose, creating a system where gradual build-up becomes just as important as explosive effort, and that balance between intensity and sustainability is exactly what allows fighters like Inoue to remain sharp, fast, and mentally focused while preparing for the immense physical and psychological pressure that awaits on fight night. The early morning atmosphere inside Naoya Inoue's camp feels calm on the surface, but underneath that calmness is an unmistakable level of focus and intensity, with every individual inside the gym clearly understanding their role and every action unfolding with rhythm, discipline, and precision, creating an environment where distractions simply do not exist and where even the smallest details appear carefully controlled, and that level of structure becomes especially important when preparing for an opponent like Junto Nakatani, because Nakatani's style doesn't just challenge a fighter physically. It forces constant mental awareness, strategic patience, and tactical discipline at every stage of the fight, meaning that preparation cannot rely on raw aggression or talent alone, and what makes the atmosphere inside camp so compelling is how seriously everyone seems to understand that reality, treating each session with a level of concentration that reflects the danger ahead, where timing, positioning, movement, and decision-making are all being refined with deliberate care, and the result is a training environment that feels less like a normal boxing gym and more like a highly coordinated system built around one purpose, ensuring that when the pressure rises on fight night, Inoue is mentally and physically prepared to respond to every challenge Nakatani may present without hesitation or loss of composure. As the first major training session finally begins inside Naoya Inoue's camp, the technical side of preparation immediately takes center stage, with the atmosphere shifting into something even more focused and deliberate as drills centered around movement, timing, reaction speed, and tactical positioning unfold with remarkable precision. And what stands out most is how little inside the gym feels random or repetitive, because rather than simply running through generic boxing routines, every exercise appears specifically designed to address potential problems that could emerge against Junto Nakatani on fight night, reinforcing the reality that elite-level preparation is not about blindly training harder than everyone else, but about training with greater purpose, sharper intention, and a deeper understanding of how small adjustments can influence critical moments under pressure. And that philosophy becomes visible in the structure of each drill, where movement patterns are refined to improve positioning, reactions are sharpened to handle sudden counters, and timing exercises are tailored to disrupt rhythm and create openings against a technically disciplined opponent like Nakatani, making the entire session feel less like standard conditioning and more like a carefully engineered strategy session brought to life physically. And what makes it even more compelling is the quiet intensity surrounding it all, because nobody inside camp appears interested in flashy moments or unnecessary theatrics. Every repetition, every instruction, and every correction seems tied directly to the larger mission of preparing Inoue for what could become one of the most complex and defining performances of his career. Inside these sessions, there is an almost relentless obsession with detail that immediately separates Naoya Inoue's camp from ordinary high-level training environments, because every movement is executed with clear intention, every adjustment is monitored closely by the team, and even the smallest mistake is corrected almost instantly, creating a system where precision is repeated so consistently that it eventually becomes instinctive under pressure. And that level of discipline reveals why Inoue has been able to maintain such an extraordinary standard throughout his career, because at the elite level of boxing, greatness is rarely built on talent alone. It comes from refining countless small details until reactions become automatic and execution remains sharp even in chaotic moments. And what makes this atmosphere even more impressive is how seriously every person inside camp appears to treat those details, understanding that against a fighter as composed and technically dangerous as Junto Nakatani, even minor lapses in timing, positioning, or decision-making could have major consequences once the pressure intensifies on fight night, which is why the training environment feels so methodical and demanding, with every drill serving a larger purpose and every correction reinforcing the idea that perfection isn't being chased for appearance, it's being pursued because at this level, precision can ultimately determine the difference between dominance and vulnerability inside the ring. At the same time, adaptability remains one of the central pillars of Naoya Inoue's entire training camp, with scenarios constantly changing from session to session in order to prepare him for the unpredictable and often chaotic nature of a real fight, because no matter how carefully a strategy is designed beforehand, conditions inside the ring can shift in an instant through timing changes, unexpected reactions, momentum swings, or tactical adjustments from the opponent and against a fighter. As intelligent and composed as Junto Nakatani, the ability to adapt smoothly in real time could become one of the most important factors of all, which is why the structure of camp appears built not around memorizing fixed patterns, but around teaching constant adjustment under pressure, forcing Inoue to react to evolving situations without hesitation while maintaining balance, focus, and offensive sharpness. And what makes this approach so effective is that it conditions composure just as much as technique, ensuring that when difficult moments inevitably appear on fight night, reactions remain controlled rather than emotional, because elite boxing is rarely about executing a perfect plan from start to finish. It's about how quickly and intelligently a fighter can respond when that plan is disrupted, and the relentless focus on adaptability throughout camp suggests that Inoue's team fully understands the complexity of the challenge ahead, preparing him not just to dominate when things go smoothly, but to stay dangerous, composed, and strategically effective even when the fight becomes unpredictable. As the intensity inside Naoya Inoue's camp continues to rise deeper into preparation for the looming clash with Junto Nakatani, the balance between explosive effort and controlled recovery becomes increasingly noticeable, with demanding bursts of high-speed, high-intensity work consistently followed by carefully managed recovery phases designed not only to restore the body physically, but also to preserve sharpness and long-term efficiency throughout the entire camp. And that rhythm is absolutely essential at the elite level of boxing, because a long training camp is not simply about exhausting the body day after day. It's about sustaining peak performance while gradually building toward maximum readiness without sacrificing speed, reaction time, or mental clarity, which is why recovery inside camp appears treated with the same seriousness as the hardest sessions themselves. And what makes this approach so important is that those controlled pauses allow more than muscles to recover. They give the mind time to process, absorb, and refine the technical details being practiced throughout the day, reinforcing movement patterns, tactical adjustments, and strategic reactions until they become instinctive under pressure, creating a cycle where physical conditioning and mental preparation continuously strengthen one another. And in a fight expected to demand both intense pace and intelligent decision-making against a composed opponent like Nakatani, that balance between effort and recovery could ultimately play a critical role in determining whether Inoue is able to maintain his explosiveness, discipline, and tactical sharpness deep into the most demanding moments of the fight. Midday inside Naoya Inoue's camp often becomes less about physical exertion and more about reflection, analysis, and strategic understanding, with the energy inside the environment shifting away from explosive movement and toward careful evaluation of everything that has been developed earlier in the day, as Inoue and his team review what has been effective, identify areas that still require refinement, and make tactical adjustments in real time based on how the preparation is evolving, and this process reveals one of the most important realities of elite boxing. That success at the highest level is rarely built on repetition alone, but on the ability to constantly adapt, learn, and refine strategy as new information emerges throughout camp, especially when preparing for a technically disciplined and unpredictable opponent like Junto Nakatani, whose style demands both physical sharpness and intelligent decision-making. And what makes these analytical periods so significant is that they allow the camp to remain dynamic rather than static, ensuring that preparation continues evolving instead of becoming trapped in fixed routines or assumptions, because every sparring exchange, every drill, and every reaction observed throughout the day provides valuable insight that can shape the next adjustment, the next emphasis, or even the next strategic direction entirely, creating a system where improvement becomes continuous and deliberate. And that willingness to constantly reassess and refine may ultimately become one of the key reasons why Inoue has remained such a dominant and adaptable force throughout his career despite the increasingly difficult challenges placed in front of him. As the day progresses deeper into the afternoon inside Naoya Inoue's camp, the physical work returns with a far more targeted and specialized intensity, shifting away from broad preparation and focusing almost entirely on the precise technical elements that still require refinement ahead of the looming clash with Junto Nakatani, whether that means sharpening defensive reactions against sudden counters, improving counter-punch timing in tight exchanges, creating sharper angles during offensive transitions, or learning how to maintain sustained pressure while constantly moving and adjusting position. And what makes these sessions so impressive is how specific and purposeful every drill appears to be, because nothing inside the camp feels random or wasted. Instead, each exercise seems carefully designed to solve a particular problem that could emerge on fight night, reinforcing the philosophy that elite-level preparation is not about doing more work for the sake of appearances, but about making every minute of training directly relevant to the opponent standing across the ring, and against a fighter like Nakatani, whose composure, timing, and ability to control distance create complex tactical challenges. That level of specialization becomes absolutely essential, because small improvements in reaction speed, positioning, or pressure management could dramatically influence critical moments once the pace intensifies under real competition, and the atmosphere surrounding these sessions reflects that understanding completely, with every repetition carrying urgency, every adjustment being monitored closely, and every detail treated as potentially decisive in what many believe could become one of the most technically fascinating and dangerous fights of Inoue's career. Throughout the entire day inside Naoya Inoue's camp, discipline remains the constant force tying everything together, shaping every action, every adjustment, and every decision with consistency, structure, and clear purpose. And it is that discipline more than anything else that creates an environment where progress never feels accidental or temporary, but instead becomes the direct result of carefully organized effort, relentless repetition, and an uncompromising attention to detail sustained over time, because at the elite level of boxing, greatness is rarely built through occasional moments of intensity alone. It is built through the ability to maintain focus and standards every single day, even during the quieter moments when nobody is watching. And what makes this atmosphere so impressive is how naturally that mentality seems embedded into the culture of camp itself, where every drill is approached seriously, every correction is taken immediately, and every part of preparation appears connected to the larger goal of being fully ready for the immense challenge presented by Junto Nakatani, creating a system where discipline becomes more than just a habit. It becomes the foundation supporting every technical improvement, every strategic adjustment, and every mental refinement taking place throughout camp. And that commitment to structure and precision is ultimately one of the key reasons why Inoue has remained so dominant throughout his career, because long-term excellence in boxing is not sustained through talent alone, but through the willingness to approach every single day with the same level of seriousness, control, and dedication regardless of pressure, hype, or expectation.